What a time to be alive. Never thought we would talk about this topic, but it's actually relevant. How do we feel human again with this virtual this and Zooming that and streaming everywhere?
Welcome to the podcast where it's all about living your love story and making your life and world a story where love wins. My name is Sienna.
And my name is Toast. We've been partners in life, love, and music since 2001.
Yep.
Welcome to our podcast. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Oh my God, guess what's on?
The Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
I saw that. I saw you were watching that.
Season 4. Season 4. I'm so excited.
What about
I'm so
Stranger
excited.
Things?
Oh,
Wasn't that?
I don't know.
I remember that got put on hold.
Yeah.
And I don't know whatever. We never kept track of that.
I mean, I watched what was available, but
But then
anyways,
it kind of fell off our radar.
I don't know. You're so into Stranger Things, but
I don't know. I'm actually not. I actually am into Ingrid Michaelson's album that was inspired by it.
I think that's why you're into Stranger Things.
Songs. I think it's what it's called. And I was just, that's what I like.
Every time there's a new series or a series has come back, I tell you, and then you always ask me about Stranger Things. And I'm like, you didn't even really watch that with me. But anyways, Handmaid's Tale is on. And what I love about Hulu is that they released 3 episodes for us. They didn't just do the one.
They enabled the binge.
Yes, they did. And that's the capacity. Like you almost can't do 3 in a row. Almost. So they
it just
really did a great
kisses
job.
the edge of problematic.
Correct. And it's perfect to discuss just a moment of that for this episode because we're talking about our personal capacity, right?
Right.
I am a professional, and so I could watch all 3. I am a professional. So
You have developed your viewing musculature.
Okay, in all honesty, I was it's been really stressful. And
at
I
work,
will,
right? Like specifically in your work load.
I will admit that at the time that the Handmaid's Tale the new season was released, I was really ready to have a more numbing, disconnective experience, like something to just take me out of my own stories.
Your socially acceptable
Let me
drug.
jump. Right. So I just needed that, wanted that, and I am okay with that. And I gave that to myself. Okay.
Okay.
But-
Okay.
All right.
We don't
But-
drink alcohol in our house.
I drink alcohol.
But not in our house.
I mean, I have the champagne that I really want to open, but we don't
So
do
we
it.
said since Thanksgiving of last year, and we were like, oh, we'll drink it for Thanksgiving. Oh, we forgot. Christmas, we forgot. New Year's, we forgot. I'm not even joking. Valentine's,
Because I don't
we
see
forgot.
it. I don't see it. Where is it?
Right, it's in our fridge.
I don't even know where it is.
It's been there.
I don't even see it.
Yeah. So we don't do alcohol. The closest we get to
No,
alcohol
but I
is
love alcohol.
kombucha. Not as
I'm
much
just kinda
as you
saying
love
that-
streaming, binge watching, quality TV.
We're not, we don't we don't drink.
Yeah, we're
it's
not like Jehovah's
that.
Witnesses or anything.
Nothing against them.
Right. That wasn't a diss at
Just that.
Jehovah's Witnesses.
But just the way, we don't want to mislead people. It's not like, we just don't touch it. We don't touch the stuff. It's just that I will say that if we go to a restaurant, remember those days, folks? I loved looking at the menu for like the cocktails and choosing a cocktail. But really, Toast, you don't really enjoy drinking, like really at all. The only drink you like is gin.
And tonic.
Gin and tonic, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And so it's kind of like I'm the one, it would only be me. Wah, 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 wah. But anyways, all right. So here we are today talking about our capacity. And one of the things, life is so wonderful because even in those moments where you're like, oh my God, it's so stressful, or oh, I'm so tired, you're learning something. You're learning something. It's an opportunity to kind of like pop your head up out of the sands, look around. Look around you. Maybe even try to have a bird's eye view and look at the situation you're in or whatever's happening or whatever's been happening for you, and to kind of see like, wow, my self-care has slid. Wow, I've been saying yes to a lot of things that it's just beyond my capacity, really. And so even when we're going through all the stuff, there are nuggets to learn, gold nuggets to mine from all of the things, happening. Mm-hmm. And conserving our personal energy and really paying attention and honoring the capacity that we each have for certain things is important.
And when you're using the word capacity, you're talking about like our capacity as human beings for giving attention
to other things,
to a person, to including ourselves, giving attention to
the way I'm talking about it is just the capacity to give outside of ourselves, to give from ourselves. So not the capacity to give back to ourselves.
Okay.
But so the capacity giving out, like
being able to show up and bring your complete self to a interaction.
Yes. And you cannot do it. You can't, for all the things we have in the day, how much of ourselves are we really bringing to those things?
I know.
When you think about it, right?
Yeah.
And so no wonder at the end of the day, we can feel so taxed. Like so many of those things on our list that we have to show up for. Some would argue, well, it's all a choice. And I know Toast is.
You mean
now you're gonna Sam Harris me and say, well, is it really a choice?
Do we really have free will?
Do we have free will at all? That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
But let's just talk about it in common language, right? In common understanding.
Common experience, yeah.
So a lot of the things, like with the day job, with certain things, maybe with your children, you have, quote unquote, have no choice. It's like you just got to show up for those things. And then for the things that,
I hear you,
you want to go take that walk, or you want to go and call a friend, or whatever it might be. Those things that we might be wanting to do and wanting to show up in our whole selves with, we often don't even have the time left, the energy reserves left to do those things. And so even if we might go, well, I should take a walk, and then we go and take that walk, have we brought our full self? Oh, this person has been, my friend, I've been rescheduling our phone call. I gotta call her today. Then it's like, how much really are you showing up for that? And then we end up scheduling 18 things in a day, and we're showing up with less than half of ourselves for each thing. Versus,
and what this is making me think of is that whole mentality, which I totally share, and like we're all under the influence of that mentality of these are the things on our list of things to do. And a lot of them are great things, right? They include self-care things and edifying social interactions with people you love. They're good things, but because the society we have been born into has been built on top of a paradigm of productivity, production of things. Yeah, like that has been the chief primary value by which things are judged. Like it's valuable, or you're valuable, or a business is valuable, or a thing is valuable if it produces something.
Right.
If you get things done.
Right.
That's how you can prove in a scientifically quantifiable way, that it's valuable. And that whole paradigm is what kind of sets you up for this thing of like, well, the more things you can get done, the better.
Right.
But that's not, I guess what we're saying is like, that's not true, really.
Right. Because, and I'll say, and we should, it would be good to do a podcast talking about time, the concept of time. Okay. But I was working with a client, and one of the things that she's just in the habit, and she has kids. She's been in the habit of just doing for her family, doing.
And sidebar.
Yeah.
We're not saying that getting things done and accomplishing is bad. Not that it's the wrong paradigm.
No, it's actually fantastic in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's a piece of the whole pie. It's important, but it shouldn't rule everything. It shouldn't.
It's about balance again, right? It's like the balance of all of it.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
But she was in a. She's just been in this habit of just doing everything for everyone else. And even though she enjoys that, she does enjoy doing for others. She has been much more in touch with, wait, what about myself? But it's such a foreign thing for her to do something for her own, to fill her own well versus just stuff for others where energy is going out. So one of the exercises I gave her was a stretch of time became available to her, basically. And she would fill that stretch of time with just doing things for everybody else. So I said, prioritize just the first part of that time, like even just an hour. And it was hard for her.
That's actually long.
Right. But it was hard for her. And she goes, well, what would I do? And I said, anything for yourself. Anything that doesn't have anyone tied to the end of it. Like, doing the laundry, doing the kids' laundry, or, whatever it is,
organizing
or building the kids' bed, right? Building their new thing. So I said, hey, even if you're just rolling around in a sun patch for an hour and laying there, just try it. And it was so foreign to her and felt maybe like wasting time even, like, God, I could be getting this done and that done. And maybe just adding more stress, right? Like, oh, that list is still waiting for me. But here's the amazing thing. A week later, when I talked with her again, she said, you know what was so weird? When I started doing that, I felt like I had more time.
Wow.
For the rest of the day.
Wow.
Like I felt like,
that's amazing.
I have. So there's something to be said about paying attention to our capacity, honoring whatever our personal capacity is for our expenditure, our energetic expenditures, making sure we are coming back to fill the well, coming back to ourselves. And it's just amazing at how that affects our perception of time.
Our experience.
Yes.
Of
which
it.
then
that whole Chronos Kairos
actually affects actual time. Yeah, it's so weird. We got to talk about that. But yeah. But anyways, I thought I would share that.
I think that's very inspiring. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and it helps me too. It's like, when you work with people, some can have the perception that, oh, I am helping this person. It's a two-way street. We're helping each other. We are reminding each other. Yep. We are there holding sacred space for each other. It's never one way, even though it can sometimes seem like, oh, well, it's that.
Things go in cycles, but and ultimately it's always, we're all in a symbiotic relationship with everybody else. So in thinking about this topic, I realized how, during this era of quarantine and social distancing, which is actually not social distancing, it's actually physical distancing, because we're still socializing, but we're doing it at a distance. We're doing it through Zoom and virtual things, right? I mean, it's really been a trip to socialize through Zoom. Like, I'm sure all of us have been to some kind of like a Zoom party or to a virtual, right? No, I'm like, for real.
Yes.
Like virtual.
I'm laughing because yes, it's true.
Like, how bizarre. and to virtual events like festivals online. They've all moved online, and you buy your ticket, and then you can quote unquote check in and get the app for it and interact and go to these virtual booths and virtual performances, and we're all watching, theatrical releases that are not in theaters. They're in our living room, on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or whatever, and watching the Oscars that way. And instead of going to live theater and going to concerts and going to street festivals, we're all doing it virtually. And thank God that we can. I really am grateful for that. And it's what's been weird for me is to experience doing that. And in one way, in the physical realm, you've been sitting in your bedroom or whatever, in your office, at a desk, staring at a screen for an hour or more. That's what your physical body has been doing.
Yeah.
But when you get up at the end of your attending this festival or whatever, it's like, oh, you do feel like you went somewhere. I do. Yeah. I feel like I just came back from, the party, or came back, from the festival. It's really strange.
It is really strange. And I find that as a person who now realizes, oh, I think I have social anxiety.
Okay.
Never thought that before. You can go back to listen to my revelation in one of our podcasts. But I find, so the Zoom you would think I'd have less social anxiety about, because I'm in my own surrounding, I'm in my home. But the thing about the Zoom is you can't really hide. Like your square is right there with when you're there, and you can't leave,
it's very different. I mean, because in quote, real life, you can't hide either.
You don't know who's really in a physical situation. Right? You can feel if someone is looking at you or wants to strike a conversation with you.
Yes.
And maybe they will. And now you are talking with someone off to the side.
Yep.
Right? And I love that. The off to the side. I love the one-to-one.
Yeah.
But the group thing. So with the Zoom and the group thing, that's hard for me. I find that really there's a different kind of anxiety with that versus, say, a one-to-one Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, all of this virtual stuff, I think, is so. I think number one, it's weird because it does. On one hand, it does feel like you went somewhere and you did interact with people, and you did. But what's weird is that
so weird. It is weird. Because it does feel like that.
Yeah. And what's amazing to realize is that we are the first human beings ever to have this kind of experience. I think what's weird too is that I think it does something to us psychologically or spiritually, so that we feel disembodied. Because our body, our organism, our physical organism is not stupid. It knows that we've been sitting in a room by ourselves this whole time. So I feel like there's this.
That's so creepy. Like
isn't it? It's like we're living in Black Mirror.
I'm needing a new season of Black Mirror. It's like, where are you guys? This is like the best time to do it. Anyways.
They're like, we don't need to do it. You're living it. Yeah. Knock yourselves out. But yeah, so there's like this break, I think, within our organism, physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual. There's some kind of break that happens because this is not how we evolved to interact with each other. Yeah. And while Zoom is fantastic, it involves like buffering and people, being frozen, their faces are frozen and you're like, oh, we lost them. Eye contact is off. Most of the time people are not looking at the camera, so you don't get the sensation they're looking at you.
No, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it feels like they're looking at you. Like, it's so weird.
But then see your brain, just the fact that your brain knows what's happening.
Yeah. Makes you know that they're not looking at you.
Yeah. That's extra work for our brain to process.
That's why it is more, it is more taxing. And then the EMFs.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a whole other thing. But anyways.
But the eye contact being off, the delay in our gestures, and we and in Zoom and stuff, like, you can only hear one person at a time, really, right? The audio like cuts in and out, and different people's faces flash on,
right?
And it's and I think also the option of being able to turn the camera on or off. Just the fact that
that's kind of creepy.
Well, the fact that it is an option is itself an extra burden on your psyche.
Yeah.
Because in real life, you don't have that option of turning, snapping your fingers and becoming invisible.
Right. Yeah.
You're there. So I think just that option itself is a problem.
Yeah.
And then, when you click to leave, that sense of like, bye. It's different from being able.
Right. It's not like, okay, thanks. Okay, so we'll see you. Okay, so we'll be in touch about next week. Yeah. Okay, bye. And thank you, and a hug.
Or you can see them walk down the street to their car, and you wave. And there's like a organic
people. See, I'm missing people now. Who would have thought?
But anyway, all of these ruminations about just as great as our technology is for being able to connect us. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm really glad for this. Thank God.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's healthy to realize the challenges that it places on us and how it must be affecting our psychology.
Our cellular and our cellular system. Like, how are we evolving now? Because of what's happening, how is our species evolving, and what will our capacity be 5 years from now?
Yeah, our attention span. I think our attention span right now is less than a goldfish.
Okay, so why don't we kind of wrap this up?
Okay.
So if you identify with what we're talking about, one of the things we were saying too is that we forgot to mention is, Toast has been normally a Twitter person, and she kind of started to get into Instagram, and she's loving Instagram. And then I kind of noticed, like, I think you're getting addicted to Instagram. Which I can identify because I am addicted myself, and I go on and off of it. But with Love and Above Cat Club now, I'm like, I've been more on than off. So I could recognize it in her, and I'm like, we got to put some guardrails around our social media time. Let's see if we can do this. But anyways, so you might even relate to it just purely on a social media basis, or even podcasts. Like if you're just listening to podcast after podcast after podcast after podcast, or if you're watching Handmaid's Tale episode after episode after episode, whatever it might be. Hopefully you're relating to what we've shared today. So a few things to maybe help this, help call yourself back to you. Your humanness, your spirituality, your soul, to come back to yourself. Because in all these ways, whether we're watching TV, whether we're listening to a podcast, whether we are attending the meeting, or we're going and doing this, it's ways that we are not only expending, but oftentimes even separating from ourselves. Because as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, we often expend more energy than we really have. And so when that happens and our humanness, our physical bodies really can't take it, we create that separation. We cut ourselves off from our own self. That makes sense, right?
Keep going.
Cutting ourselves off from our own self.
I think so.
And it's almost like
I'm relating it to that break that I...
Yeah, and it's almost like a coping mechanism, because we can't be present for this 18th thing today. but we got to show up. So there's our physical body showing up, but our whole self isn't there.
Yeah, totally identify with that.
So how at the end of the day can you call yourself back, right? Like,
or even during the day.
Even during the day. I find it so challenging to do during the day. So I've created the habit of doing it at the end of the day. But yeah, if you can do it during the day, wonderful. So one way you can do it is just to literally stop. You can even do a just kind of contract your body,
tense up.
Tense
flex.
Up. Hold your tense. Hold it. Then release. Like if you even just do that, you'll notice like, oh wow, I can feel. One of the symptoms of like, oh wow, I've just expended is when you cannot feel. You cannot physically feel.
And it's tricky because when you're in that state, you can't feel that you can't feel.
True. So creating the habit or setting an alarm, on your phone every 3 hours to just contract and tense up and then release, taking some deep breaths, even just if you hug yourself, like put your arms around and hug yourself and just like hold, right? Just hold yourself. You might even find yourself naturally, and I'm kind of laughing because people make fun of this, right? Like rocking, it's self-soothing. It's stuff you did as a kid, really. Right. But if you just hold yourself, you're bringing yourself back to you. You're bringing yourself back, and it's actually very soothing. Mm-hmm. And if hugging yourself feels weird and you're embarrassed and you're like, I don't want to hug myself, then you can put one hand on your heart to just feel your heart beating. And then put your other hand on your solar plexus or your stomach. And just stand there and just take a moment and just feel your heart beating and pay attention to, okay, well, how am I feeling? Just by asking yourself to notice, you are calling yourself back to your body. So I think those things really help. And the last thing I'll say with that is, if you're kind of not even sure, like, well, am I expending? I don't know. Because we're so good at just protecting ourselves, right? That we might be, no, I'm totally fine. It's just notice, how do you feel when your eyes pop open in the morning? How do you notice? Like, what do you notice? How do you feel? When your eyes pop open, are you like, I'm so tired still? Or like, it's Groundhog Day. Or are you like, I had a good sleep. Okay, today's another day. I want to manage my energy. Like, how do you feel upon waking? That's a really good gauge to notice that. Because once you wake up and start moving your body and you go use the bathroom, you brush your teeth, you go get your coffee, you start getting into the doing mode and you're less in your body. And you can fool yourself.
And you just get on the conveyor belt. Yeah. It's Groundhog Day.
Right. Yeah. But what were you going to say? Looked like you were going to say.
Well, as you described those things of like hugging yourself and rocking yourself and all of that. And, it makes me think of going for a walk.
Yes.
Working
physical,
out.
Yes. Exercise.
It's all physical. It's all physical stuff. And I guess what came to my mind is the concept of trusting in nature's way. Because we are a product of nature, right? Nature gave birth to us.
Yes.
And how you can't rush springtime.
Right.
It's going to happen on its own time. And I feel like this process, this effort that we do have to take initiative on of coming back to ourselves, we do have to initiate the whole thing of like, wait, put on the brakes, stop, go for a walk, stop, hug yourself or whatever. We have to be proactive in that sense. But we also have to realize that we can't engineer, I guess, or push the process faster than it's going to happen.
The coming back to yourself?
Yeah. It's like it really calls for a level of patience and humility.
Oh, yeah.
And
yes,
a sense,
absolutely.
And a sense of trust in waiting for that sense of embodiment and coming back to ourselves to just emerge out of the nature of who we are as organisms.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Totally agree. And, you know, because it's habits, right? Like we have these habits. And so for me, the habit of like, okay, what's the next thing? Like I gotta, you know, what is the next thing I gotta do? And what's the next thing and all of that. When I would go to the exercise of just kind of coming back to myself at the end of the day, you know, showering at nighttime, showering off everything and really using that time like to come back to myself. I'd find myself trying to rush that process. Like, hurry up. I gotta I have more things to do. I can't, you know, and trying to feel it faster. You can't, you know? So I had to, so I really over time just created more of a habit of like, be present in this and enjoy it. Because when you give yourself over to even that process of, because the coming back to yourself is not just another thing to add to your list. Oh shoot, I gotta come. Okay, Brett. Okay, number 19. Come back to myself. I gotta do that exercise at the. It's not. You know, like enjoy it. Have like refill your well. I mean, it feels so good when you allow yourself that time versus, oh my God, I still have to come back to myself.
Yeah.
It's so reminding me sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I know this is getting longer than we usually go, but I want to share one more thing that what you just said, it reminded me of. So I heard about, I don't even know if this is still on the table in the world of Netflix and streaming services, but I heard at one point, not too long ago, that they were experimenting or thinking of the idea of allowing viewers to play back movies at a faster speed so that you could speed watch a movie.
That is ridiculous.
But why is it ridiculous? Obviously, some people don't think it's ridiculous, but I think it's ridiculous because for the most part, I don't think the purpose of watching a movie is not to finish it. The purpose of watching a movie is to have the experience being conveyed by the director or whatever, right? The point is having the experience. And I guess it kind of feels the same as like, the point of coming back to yourself is not to finish. It's to go, oh yeah, wow. It's to really come back to yourself, which is an experience anyway. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, this is Sienna.
And this is Toast.
I was being with myself for a moment.
I could tell.
I was like being...
This is Sienna and this is Toast. And we're as always encouraging you to live your love story. Thanks for listening.